Hey troops, Roxy here and welcome to Roxy Plays Games and welcome to my beginner's guide to VATSIM. Now I was originally going to call this a VATSIM for dummies, but I find that quite insulting when people do that. I know they're obviously not intentionally calling people a dummy, but it kind of does insinuate that if you're watching that, you're a dummy, and you could be the most intelligent person in the world. But if you don't know a subject, then you don't know that subject. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a subject. What? It doesn't necessarily mean you're a dummy. So yeah, I kind of decided to call this Beginner's Guide to VATSIM because that's kind of what it is. And or getting started with VATSIM. What was your getting started or beginner's guide? We'll call it Getting Started with VATSIM because that's kind of what we're doing. It's going to be a two-part series. Part one is the setup process, registering with VATSIM and getting all the various different clients. Well, I say various, you only need one client software. There's a few things that you will need to download in the process. And once that's all done, a few little bits of explaining to do, then part two will be doing a flight. So how to prepare for a flight, what information you need to collate, and then actually doing a flight on VATSIM. So before I get into the main video, usual thank yous, guys. Thank you for everyone that has liked my videos, and thank you for everyone that has subscribed. Literally, as I am doing this video, I have a new subscriber, Anonymous69 420, subscribe to your channel. I don't know whether that's a legitimate person or not, but either way, thank you for subscribing and everyone else that has subscribed. I don't have 1 million subscribers yet, but yet maybe in 40, 50 years or so, I might work my way up there. Anyway, right, so VATSIM, what is VATSIM? What's it all about? What do we do with it? VATSIM, let me just hide that overlay at the top there. Forgot to get rid of you. Yeah, VATSIM is essentially a online multiplayer client, but it has live air traffic control. So actual people controlling traffic, and they are real people. They would have gone through a process of qualifications and training to be able to do it, and people that are pilots can go through a qualification and training process. And the new rules that's coming into VATSIM, as from the 18th of this month, 18th of August, you will be required to have your P1 qualification to fly online. If you don't have your P1, then when you try and log into your client, obviously it won't let you because you won't be qualified to log in. I believe they're adding this in with, obviously, similarly on the same day, you have got, sorry, I've got hiccups. You've got the new Flight Sim, Microsoft Flight Sim launching. And that's obviously going to bring thousands and thousands of people to the flight simming world, which is fantastic. But obviously, within those thousands and thousands of people that are joining flight sim, no doubt there's going to be a percentage of those people that are going to be trolls or idiots if they was to come on VATSIM. So they're obviously going to stop that, which is great for the VATSIM community because it's not going to get ruined, but it's also great because hopefully it will bring in some new people. Yeah, that's a word. Some new people into the flight simming world. So yeah, that is what's VATSIM, and as you can see up here, they've got an about tab. It is vatsim.net. I will put a link in the description below. You then got two tabs, a tab if you want to be an online pilot and a tab if you want to be an online air traffic controller. Obviously this video is all about flying, not ATC, so we're not going to go into this element, although it is very complex. We are going to go into the pilots one. And the first thing that we're going to do is getting started, which makes sense, doesn't it? We want to get started. hence the video, Getting Started with Vatsim. So here we've got some steps, really straightforward guys, just follow these steps and this is going to get you up and running. I'm going to briefly go through some of it with you, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Join Vatsim, click on the link, okay, and then just fill in the details. You do have to put in some real life details because obviously it's a serious network. Right, let me be blunt with you guys. If you're a troll, if you're the type of person that just wants to be an idiot and show off or whatever, there are other networks that I would recommend you go and use. I'm not going to obviously say them because I'm not going to have people blaming me for you going onto their networks. VATSIM is definitely not one of them. VATSIM does have a code of conduct. It does have rules and regulations, and if you break them, you get a slap on the wrist. You may get your account suspended, or you might even get your account banned. People want to be serious on here. People want to simulate either being a pilot or either being a or either being. Let me start that one in a little bit of better English. Either being a pilot or being a air traffic controller. So they put those rules and regulations in. Real life pilots and air traffic controllers use this for training purposes so that they can obviously increase their knowledge without the dangers of real people or real planes. So yeah, sorry, rant over. If you're not a serious person, I would definitely recommend just stopping this video and going watching Minecraft or something. Familiarize yourself. I'm sorry, grumpy mood today. It's early morning. I've not had a coffee yet. Right, familiarize with the basics. I would definitely recommend that you read through the basics so you understand what VATSIM is all about before you go committing yourself into flying online. Just read around the basics. You don't need to read every single page in detail, but yeah, it's going to help out a lot. The next thing we need to do is choose a pilot client. This is what's going to allow you to see other planes and to talk to the air traffic controller. Right, actually that's going to bring me, sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, and the reason being is in one of my videos on my Around the World in 80 Days series, I recommended that people use the in-game ATC. For Xplane, I don't know about the other platforms because I don't play on them, but for Xplane, using the in-game ATC to kind of get a bit of practice in using ATC prior to using VATSIM. And in my latest video, I actually retracted that statement. I'm going to be honest with you, the in-game ATC on Xplane is arse. Okay, I probably should have said close your ears if you're under the age of 16, but yes, it is arse. Okay, it is complete and utter rubbish. I did a few flights that I was going to record and obviously upload onto YouTube on using ATC, and it was sending me off in different directions that it shouldn't be sending me off in. It was just complete and utter rubbish. So I've decided to retract my statement. If you excuse me, if you want to fly online on VATSIM, then just follow these guides, watch other guides, get yourself in and logged on, and just practice rather than what's the word I'm looking for? Rather than using the in-game ATC, which is a lot of rubbish. If you don't want to use VATSIM, then yeah, I suppose the in-game ATC will suffice. Right, so you're going to choose a pilot software. So click on that link; it will take you over to the pilot software page. You got your different simulators here. Obviously, this video is all about Xplane. I don't know the others. I don't play on the others, so I won't really go into detail on them. But the recommended pilot client is xPilot. I have used in the past xQuartbox. I haven't used Swift, but I have used xQuartbox, and xPilot is far better than xQuartbox. And obviously, other clients for the other platforms. But the good thing is within VATSIM, when you're doing a flight, is you'll see people on these various different networks if they're connected to VATSIM. So it doesn't matter what platform you're on, P3D, Xplane or FSX, you're going to see people flying on that network. And obviously the upcoming Microsoft Flight Simulator is going to be, as I've already mentioned, on VATSIM. So we want xPilot. So click on the xPilot link, and this is going to take you, let me just go back on that one. This is going to take you to this link here. Now there used to be, when you clicked on there used to be a alpha and a beta version. Now there's just the one version, currently 1.3.22, and I've literally minutes before minutes before doing this video, realized that my client version was actually out of date. So I've actually already downloaded it. And I'm going to install it with you guys so that you can see how easy it is to do. So we've got our xPilot setup exe. So we're just going to double click on this. More info, run anyway. It's going to bring up the little pop-up. Let me bring you back over here. We can minimize you. Let me just minimize that so it's a bit easy to see. Yes, that's my Concorde in the background. Well, not my Concorde, but me doing a flight in a Concorde. Right, so welcome to xPilot setup. Next, we want all of them checked. Well, I want all of them checked. You need to Xplane root folder. If it's not already in there, just find it. Install it to obviously whichever drive you're going to put it on. I'm going to put it on my C drive. Still got plenty of space on there. Next, and finish to start up xPilot. And that will then bring up this screen here. So a couple of things you'll need to do. You'll need to go into settings. You'll need to put in your information. And obviously when you do this the first time, this is all going to be blank. But you'll need to put in your VATSIM ID, your VATSIM password, your name, well, you don't have to put but you can put in any home airport. The VATSIM server that's closest to where you live. So obviously find whichever one you think is going to be suitable for you. You can try different ones. You've got some check boxes for notifications. Miscellaneous. The only one I would recommend out of this to have on is the automatically squawk mode Charlie on takeoff. Okay, so your TARA basically. Make sure, or I would recommend having that checked, just in case you forget to turn that on. You got your Xplane configuration, so wherever your Xplane is located, you need to put that in there, and then push to talk. Obviously, set your microphone and headphones up, the volumes you'll have to play around with, so that'll take a little bit of trial and error possibly. And then obviously a push to talk button. Now, I've actually got my push to talk button to my throttle quadrant. I used to have it on my joystick. I've moved it to my throttle quadrant just purely because when I was pushing the button on my throttle on my joystick when I was flying, I was making the plane go in weird directions because it's quite sensitive. So I've moved it over to my throttle quadrant, a button on there. I'm using the Logitech X56 just in case anyone is curious. So once you've done all of that, obviously click save and close, and then obviously you got the screen here. Now, very quick bit, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm going to be doing it in the flight part 2. But you've got all of the controllers. When you connect to Xplane and you connect on here, you'll see any controllers that is online. And this is what we call the top-down menu. Basically, the person at the top, and this is by no means saying that people at the bottom are crap, but essentially the person at the top is going to be the person, or probably going to be the person with the highest qualification and the most experience, compared to the person down the bottom. May be very new, or he may still be experienced and still be qualified, highly qualified, but you need or you require the lowest qualification at the bottom, which is what called S1 for clearance and delivery, and then the center will be a higher qualification, and as you go up you need the next kind of qualification going up. I'm not 100% familiar with what the qualifications are. I just know that definitely the first one, the first stepping stone, is clearance delivery, which is S1. So your top down menu. So in a nutshell, starting from the bottom, ATIS is your weather information. It's an automated weather forecast, and that'll give you some bits and pieces. Like I say, we'll go into that in more detail on the flight. Clearance delivery is in charge of your clearance. So you'll file a flight plan, and then you will contact clearance delivery to check that, make sure that's okay for you to do your flight. They will then hand you over to ground. Ground will be in charge of you starting your engines and pushing back and taxiing. Now there are slightly different procedures from America to Europe as an example, and I found this out late last night. In Europe, you will have to contact ground and request push and start. So you start your engine and push back. In America, I believe, from what I've been told, providing you are not pushing into an active taxiway, you can push back yourself and then you will just contact ground for taxiing. I believe that is correct. Just put in the comments if I'm completely wrong, but I've been told that by an ATC guy. That's what they said. In America is, I'll actually read out exactly what they told me because it's on Discord. So I'm not giving you wrong information. You do not need to ask for push and start in the US unless you are pushing into an active taxiway or ATC tells you otherwise. So yeah, you just pretty much just push back, whereas in Europe you would. Tower. Once you've done your taxi to the runway, you would then get handed over to the tower, and tower is in charge of takeoff and landing. So when you're on the runway to take off, tower will obviously do that procedure, and when you're coming in to land, when you're on the ILS, you've established on the ILS and you're coming in for approach, you will be talking through tower. Approach and departure is the stage after taking off. So you take off, you've gone past the kind of the ILS segment. You will then be handed over to departure, and the opposite way round when you're coming in, approach will be in charge of guiding you to the ILS and then hand you over to the tower. And then finally center, they're the ones at the very top. They're the ones who control the wider space. And at some point you'll get handed over or handed to back and forth from center, approach and departure, depending on which way you're going. So that's kind of a brief overview of them. So let's get that out of the way, and let's bring back up this window. Yep, got the right one. I'm glad I didn't bring up something inappropriate. So we've got our xPilot download done. Let me just actually copy that link so I can put it in the description below. Although you can just obviously click on the link. So xPilot. I'll just put that in there, ready to put in the description. So let us get rid of you. Right, you've also got, well, I don't know about other countries, but certainly the UK, VATSIM UK. You can join VATSIM UK, and it's got steps for becoming a pilot or becoming a controller. But even in here, it's going to say visit vatsim.net to get registered and stuff like that. Download the client, go through the quick start guide, and then it's got various different training things on here. But when you log in, it just gives you some information about you. I'm obviously not going to bring up my personal details, but yeah, you can see that once you log in. If you are living in the UK, if you're living in Canada or China, I would probably say this isn't the page for you. So yeah, go through this. You've done your pilot client, just read through all of this, and we are going to be going through this in a second, prior to obviously the flight part. So xPilot is the software that's going to allow you to speak to ATC and also to see planes on the ground. If you want to see people on a map, there's various different things you can do. There is, if you've got a iPad or an iPhone, iOS software, there is an app called VATMap. Very, very cool. It shows you who's online, ATC. It shows you a little map which will show you a similar version in a second on the browser. You can add people as friends. You don't need to have them to friend you back to be able to see them, but basically you can see who they see where they are. So let's say you've got someone that you follow on YouTube who does flights. You know, maybe like a guy called Roxy Plays Games, um, and you see him flying around. You can add him as a friend, and it puts a circle around them. So at a glance, you can see them amongst all the other thousands of planes that are flying. It'll show a circle around yourself, and obviously if you fly with people online, it's quite nice. Just add them as a friend. It doesn't give you any personal information or anything like that, but it just means that you have a circle around their plane when they're online. So yes, quite a cool little app. Obviously, if you don't have a iPad or iPhone, then that's irrelevant anyway. I'm sure that will be a similar bit of software out there for other platforms. But what we've got on the interwebs is this one here. So let me just get rid of. I think we're done with VATSIM. There's not much more to go in there. There is training that you can do. If you go into training, but everything that you kind of need to do is all in here. Filing a flight plan we will come on to in a short while. But like I say, training, if you want to do any pilot training, they have a process from P1. At the moment, it's P0 to fly online, which is basically just registering. But like I said, as from, I believe it's the 18th of August, you will need your P1. I've done my P1. It's fairly straightforward. It's an online training thing, and then it goes P2, P3, P4, and P5, I believe. So yeah, have a look around there. Go through all these different tabs, resources, loads of stuff in here. And basically, what I'm going to talk about now, so you can see who's online, is in this bit here. Flight planning. I'm sure if you're flying online, you're going to know all of this anyway. And then you've got training and model matching, which we will come on to shortly. So, Simaware, this is a browser version of seeing people online. Very similar to the VATMap for the iOS. So it looks very similar. You've got different tabs there to highlight certain things, but what you've got here is your green planes are obviously the people that are flying, and you've got airports with letters next to them to say who's online. So the A is ATIS, the T is tower. If we have a look at Gatwick, we've got an ATIS, we've got a tower, we've got a ground controller, and we also have clearance delivery, which is the D. So there's three guys online there, so that'll be a good airport to go out of. Manchester's got ground and ATIS, and Shannon, EINN, has got tower and ATIS. Is that quite sad that I know these codes? Yeah, that is quite sad, isn't it? So the airport with the letters will have, if they're online, ATIS, clearance and delivery, ground, and tower. That's the kind of the three people and the automated service for while you're on the ground. Obviously, clearance and delivery is irrelevant for arrivals, but is relevant for departures. Ground and tower are going to be the ones for both arrivals and departures. The next one we've got is we have got the approach guys. So the approach departure, and as you can see, it's kind of a blue circle. So they will have a radius around the airport where they will guide people in or out from the ILS. So if you're coming in, you're flying in, you'll come into their radar. They will then contact you, or you may get handed over depending on where you've just come from. They will then guide you into the ILS and then hand you over to tower, who will then land you, and vice versa. If you was taking off, you would take off, and then once you kind of up in the air a short distance, tower will then hand you over to approach, and they will then guide you away. Depending on your flight plan, they may cut some waypoints off, they may not, but they will give you some altitude restrictions potentially, as well as potentially some directions. They will then hand you over, if a controller is online, to center, and center is this white line kind of in weird shapes. So you can see we've got London North and London South controller. So there's two guys on controlling this whole airspace here. You may only have one person controlling this whole airspace. You may have Ireland. You've got Scotland. So you've got big chunks of areas that the center controller will be in control of, in charge of. I was going to say then, in control of. So you would leave the approach departure controller, who will then hand you over to the center, and basically they would be in charge of the bigger airspace. They don't generally do too much. They'll say to climb to whatever altitude, depending on how busy it is. They may give you altitude restrictions, they may give you directions to head on to, but essentially 8 times out of 10 you're going to be following your flight plan, going to be following your flight computer. They will just give you some initial, climb to whatever altitude, or follow your flight plan or whatever. And that's pretty much it. That's your different controllers. Again, if you was coming in to the airspace, they would contact you. They would guide you to the approach, and then the cycle repeats. The approach to the tower, tower to the ground, and then you park up. So as you can see, there's not too much online. We've got a big chunk in Northern Africa, a bit of kind of, is that Central Africa or Northern Central, Southern Northern? We've got a little bit down in South Africa, but not too much going on. America's pretty quiet at the moment. This one I'm showing you now, which is what I prefer using. I have my tablet for VATMap, and I have this on screen at the same time. This is a little bit delayed with showing stuff moving, because obviously it's on a browser, so it has to refresh. You can do a manual refresh if you wanted to, but what I like about this is you can, at a glance, you can see how many planes are in an area. So this number is basically telling you that there's 2 people in that area. So we zoom in, and there they are, 2 people in that area. If we zoom in here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 planes in that area. So that's what I like about this. So you can see kind of where the busy areas are. If I go out a little bit more, so you can see there's 145 people in Europe, which is definitely the busiest area. You go in and then it splits into the various different areas like Spain, France, the UK, kind of Eastern Europe. You go in a little bit further. Well, actually, that's Germany. This is Eastern Europe, isn't it? So that actually 16 is Germany. This is Eastern Europe over this way. Yeah, my geography isn't fantastic. So yeah, that's what I like about this. You can kind of see where it's busy. Up the top, you got like a little ticker tape showing you flights that's currently going on, and obviously you can search for a live flight up here. And also now and again it'll pop up anyone that's streaming, if they're connected in. I don't know how it works because I don't stream. But now and again you'll see someone that's streaming will pop up here, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, that is pretty much it for seeing people on a map. So hopefully that'll be cool. There's one more other thing that you can use, and this is something you can download and install on your computer, VATSIM. And again, it's just very similar. It kind of shows you who's online, the planes. Doesn't show you as a plane icon, it just leaves little things, and it shows you where they come from, where they're going to, and their what's the word? Their call sign. Cool, right? So I don't use VATSIM, to be honest. It's okay, but I don't find it fantastic, so I'm not going to be showing you that. This is what I prefer myself. And I did mention about airline codes. So if you are stuck for finding an airline code, I'll link this, and this is all the major airline codes. Obviously, like British Airways is BAW, and the call sign will be Speedbird. Righty, so what I'm going to do now is, I think that's pretty much the basics of getting set up with VATSIM. Just follow the kind of the guides in here, just kind of go through everything, get yourself connected with or download xPilot, get that all set up. You can use these if you want to, and that's probably the basics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it an end of a video on this one, and then what we're going to do is in the next video is go through setting up the Xplane with xPilot so you can see planes on the ground, and all of the basics that you will need to do for doing a flight. So that one's going to be quite a long episode, because obviously we need to do a lot of talking to actually get into the flight and then do the flight as well. And also I want to try and find an area where we've got a majority of ATC online. There's no point in doing a flight if there's no one to talk to. So yes, thank you for watching part one, guys. Hopefully now you can get yourself into VATSIM, get yourself set up, and like I said, the next flight or the next part two, which I'm going to will be uploaded straight away once I've recorded it. We will actually look at how to see planes on the ground, which is fairly straightforward, and doing a flight. So speak to you soon, guys. Take care and be good.